What's up, everybody? Welcome to another live review. As I'm still adjusting my lighting here, I gotta shift my camera over. Quality looks half decent for the live stream. There we are. There's no glare now. You're not blinded or anything like that. Let's get our battle droid set up here. And yeah, with my usual live reviews, what I plan on doing, and sorry for the noise in the background, it's a little bit more warm where I am today. It was about in the mid to high 70s today, so I had turned the AC on for a change, which is quite a shift. If you are in the east, the upper northeast coast. Zorpox, how's it going? Normally, for those of you that already know, I'm not obviously not explaining this to you, but for those of you that are new to my live reviews, I usually just go through the review in the beginning, and then I like to discuss pop culture, the figures itself. I try to get in depth if anybody has any questions or anything like that. But for this particular review, seeing as the 20th anniversary for the Phantom Menace, I thought this was fitting figure to review, and we can also discuss the Phantom Menace at the end of the review. So I'm going to wait for a couple more people to start popping in here, and then I will begin the review. But this is going to be kind of short and sweet. Essentially, this is just a battle droid. Nothing too crazy here with that. But I think it's a really good-looking figure. It's a good army builder overall, and there are some aspects that I will point out that do bug me about this figure. There's actually a couple, but overall I think it's a pretty well-done overall package. I think like I said, it's fitting for the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, and I remember, well, I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm almost going off on a tangent here, but anyway, here are some of the battle droids. Let me get the rest of these out of the way here, and then we will just get started right off the bat, and I will point out specific things. So we're going to use this guy. Let me get him out of the way for a second there, and let me pan up a little bit. And I'm going to bring in the packaging here so you guys can see what the packaging looks like in case this is your, in case you're curious about it. Here's the packaging, your typical Black Series packaging. Nothing new or really special about it. I do love the card artwork right around here. Hopefully next year or maybe the end of this year, they will switch this packaging finally, seeing as the sequel trilogy really started this packaging, and it would be nice if after the sequel trilogy is done after this year, they switched a blue or totally different new packaging. I think that would be warranted for the line. I'm kind of getting sick of this red and black. It just gets bleh. It's kind of like seeing the same old thing. But it says Battle Droid right here. Got a nice window box display of the Battle Droid. It is figure number 83, and it says Battle Droid. And then it says Battle Droid again. And then on the back, there's what the back looks like. In case you're curious, here are all the read-ups, in case you are multilingual. There you go. Roger, Roger, indeed. Roger, Roger. So that's the packaging. Let me get that out of the way, because we're done with that. Let me bring him in here. And then let me fix my camera shot right there. Action figure expert, how's it going? Hello, 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 and welcome. But here's the Battle Droid. I do, like I said, this is a very unique design. I remember the first time I saw this design from when the Phantom Menace came out. I was like, that's a very unique soldier design. I thought it was pretty cool that they can kind of crumple all up, and the figure itself can kind of fold up, which I'll show you in a second how to do that, or if you don't know. He does come with a different back attachment, and I will show you right here. Where is that guy with the other back attachment? There we go. As you can see right here, he does come with a backpack, which is removable, or you can take the backpack off and give him these extra antennae that he does come with, in case you don't want to, you want to maybe a little bit of differentiation between the figures itself. But there you go with the back attachment. Simply just D-pegs on the back, and you can see the back hole right there, the back port for that. Nice little detailed design for it. He does come with the same blaster throughout. Only comes with one. The cool thing about, you know, it is nice to have this right here, and I half wonder if that peg will fit into that hole on his back. So let's test that out. You do have a peg on the side of his gun right here, and that's supposed to peg into the side of his backpack. But seeing as this guy doesn't have a backpack, let's see if this will peg into his back. It's not really wanting to go in, so therefore does not work. So if you have this back set up, unless you have him holding this, oh, there he goes. Unless you have him holding this blaster, there's nowhere else to store it, really. So, and I don't see any other peg holes or anything like that. But just wanted to point that out for the backpack setup. But if you do have the backpack, there's a little peg hole right there, and it's meant for the peg on this side right there. And you simply just plug that right into the backpack, like so, and it will stay. So when you fold him up, he's got his weapon storage. Or if you just want to have him kind of marching, or in maybe like a talking scene, or he's discussing, you know, a combat mission with another battle droid, you could just have him store his gun, like so. The overall sculpt and detail of this is very unique, obviously. He looks pretty cool. It always gave off an anteater vibe to me, or like a, maybe like an aardvark, or like an anteater or something, that face. That's what I used to think of it when I was in my mid to late teens when the Phantom Menace came out. So, I don't know, pretty cool design. I like the extra paint detail that we have over here on the chest. We've got some silver paint right here. Let me get in close and personal here so we can, let me adjust my lighting as well. I don't want to wash you guys out here. But we got a little bit of silver paint, like battle damage right here, and then we got like a brown dry brushing right there on the chest there. Got some silver paint detail for this arm bicep piston right there. That's pretty cool. And then we have some silver right here for his rib cage, I guess if you want to call it that, or his yeah, rib cage would probably be the thing that you would call that. He does have a piston on the back of his arm as well. Actually, I think I might have to have that swiveled backwards. Oops, sorry about that. In case anybody was wondering, hey, you swiveled his arm around the wrong way. There you go. Now he's proper. So you have that piston on the back. And if you like the pistons in the front, you can always swivel his arm around the other way if you want to. But overall, I mean, you do have some extra paint detail going throughout his legs right here. On each leg, it's like a little spot right there, a little spot right there. And you have some silver paint for the knees. Looks really good overall. And then when you bend the knee, you've got some actual paint detail inside the knee too. And it does mirror the other side. Flipping him around to the back, you've got some more paint detail over here and here for some silver paint. So pretty cool. The backpack has got some battle-hardened paint detail to it as well. You got some silver there, and it's kind of mixed throughout. As far as the little blemishes, you got some brown paint right there, and everything looks really good. Very nicely done as far as giving him that battle look on the face as well. You got some, you know, some battle damage on the face. I think it works very well for the figure, and overall I'm very pleased with it. And the paint is the same as far as all the blemishes and everything. The paint is pretty much the same on all the battle droids, so they all kind of just are copies of each other as far as where the paint specs are. There's no really differentiation between them at that much, or at all, if any. But overall, paint and sculpt, I'm very pleased with it. You've got a lot of line work for the head, and I think this is just so well done, so well designed. You know, and it's very nice that Hasbro finally started pumping these out, because let me fix his head here. It's a little His neck was a little back heavy there. But it's nice because I was almost going to pull the trigger about a year ago on the SH Figure Arts ones. I still might pull the trigger on maybe one of those engineers, the red ones, but because I don't think they go for much, like 30, 40 bucks. But you know, I'm sure we'll get different paint decos of these down the line. It's just a nice, fun figure, I think, to army build and such. And like I said, we'll probably get a red engineer, and we'll probably get a commander with yellow stripes or whatever, or yellow markings. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool figure. Getting to articulation, he is pretty well articulated for a droid, which was actually something I was kind of worried about as far as articulation or how he was going to stand. There is he's not perfect. I'm going to get to the flaws in a minute, but let me just go through articulation. His head can swivel. It's kind of on just like a little peg joint right there, and you can raise the head up almost out of the body. Like, what the heck is that? I wonder if you can take this all the way out. And I don't know if it's a design, but you can see it's a rather large or long, not large, but long, deep peg there for it. Like I said, the head can swivel. You kind of have to move it up a little bit to swivel, and it can pivot down, and it can pivot back. His little, I guess you want to call I don't know the technical term for those. They look like little, like ears, or I don't know, antennae, I guess. They can kind of pop off, so be careful right there. Oops, I'm dropping the figure, and I'm causing a disaster here. But they do just peg right back on. So if they fall off, you can put them right back on. Hey, Andy, what's going on, man? Don't worry, everybody. I'll get to comments and everything after I go through the articulation and everything. The head can pivot side to side, which is pretty cool. You also get a little bit of a pivot in the neck as well. So there's that. You can swivel. I already showed that. And the head can actually look up, which is doesn't that look silly? What the heck? So there's that. These antennas can go down into the backpack. So if you want to put them away, or if they're in the way, you can do that. So those go down like that. So really good range of motion, really good articulation for the head. Very pleased with that. The arms can swivel at a full 360 rotation. They do have a hinge joint at the elbow, or the shoulder, and they can go back full 360. It does have a bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, but it's actually really good range of motion due to the design of the droid. So he gets more than 90 degrees, which is really nice, and he can hyperextend all the way the other way if you want him to. He does have a wrist swivel, and he does have a hinge joint in the wrist. But you do have to swivel this at the forearm, excuse me, as forearm swivel, but it actually works because the hinge joint only goes one way. It only goes either left or right, and then you have to swivel the forearm to get it to go up and down. So it's a little bit unique, but I don't mind it. It still works. It doesn't hinder anything really, so I don't mind that design. The torso can kind of flex and pivot. It can crunch forward and back, so there's your crunch, and it can like pivot side to side a little bit. You can do the splits about that far. I mean, you don't really need a battle droid to do the splits, but it would be nice if you can get him into a little bit of a wider stance. These figures tend to want to go a little bit pigeon-toed sometimes. It'd be nice if I can get them in a little bit of a wider stance. I get their droids and they have a narrow walk, but it's just a little nitpick of mine. He can flex all the way up. He's been doing a lot of yoga, so there you go with that. The legs can go all the way back, so he's very much into yoga. The legs can fold all the way up like so, and they can't really hyperextend, so they just go straight like that. There's no boot swivel or anything like that. He does have an ankle swivel right there, and he can point the toe, he can point the heel, and then he can ankle pivot. This one's kind of tight, and we'll get to that. That's part of my kind of gripes with the figure. But this one can ankle pivot, and he does have 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet, so there you go with that. And that's essentially his articulation. Pretty good range of motion. Pretty good articulation. I don't really have too many issues. There are some. There are a couple though. Um, Quality control issues that I've had with these guys, and it's mostly has to do with the feet. I think the feet. I understand that by design, the feet are smaller on battle droids, but I feel like they need to be a little bit longer just to balance the figure out, because these teeny little feet, and he's kind of up. He's kind of a heavier guy on this upper portion right here for his upper torso. He kind of likes to. He's putting a lot of weight on those teeny little feet. And then if you have an issue like I've had with a couple of these other guys, the ankle joints are kind of frozen at the hinge joint, so I've really had to take some heat to them. One still is frozen, and I can't get it to go, but you know, obviously it's going to take time for me to loosen that joint up. But the other issue that I do have with it is that the pegs, while you see this one's got a very long peg, it is kind of, I don't know, skinny for my liking as far as durability. The shoulder joints, while they're cool, everything just kind of feels a little bit flimsy on him, which isn't the end of the world, because that's, I mean, it's due to his design, so I'm not going to knock it too much. But the feet pegs, and I've actually pulled apart one of the foot pegs just because I was curious, and the foot peg that goes from the ankle into the foot that connects the two is very thin and kind of brittle. So just be weary, just not be weary, but be aware that it is like that. But you can get him all crunched up. Let's get him. I'll do this as best as I possibly can here, as far as memory serves me. It's how they crunch up. But you just want to get those legs going like that. And I think you want to kind of swivel this arm like so. Kind of have him hugging his legs like this. And then get this arm up, over. Swivel the forearm like so. And he's just kind of hug his legs like he's depressed and lying in a ditch somewhere. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. So pinch that all in, get the head down like so, and then there you go. You pretty much have your battle droid. I mean, obviously let me know if I'm not doing this right, but he can sit. You just kind of have to work with his ankles to get him in a seating pose. That's the other issue, is that some of these, they want to ratchet kind of a little bit. There's like a little bit of a pop ratchet where you can't just get him in that sweet spot where you need him to. It just wants to pop. So one foot is always like, this one doesn't have that much of a ratchet where this one does. So it kind of throws off the stability of him staying in that pose. Like, he can do it. I'm not saying he can't, but I'm just saying it would be a little bit nicer if those ankles were done a little bit better. That's all. But like I said, you can get him into that. So that's what he's supposed to look like right there. Obviously, you got to work with the arms a little bit more than I did. I just kind of threw them together. But you get the point. You get the drift. There you go. He's all crouched in, crouched up. But he's a cool figure overall. I'm, you know, besides some of the QC issues, I have had some issues with them standing. You got to work with him a little bit more, maneuver him a little bit more, due to these legs being so skinny and him wanting to lean forward, lean back. But he can hold his blaster nicely in this hand. Right, get that sweet spot. There we go. Like so. And then kind of bring this up and over. And they kind of shoot from the hip. So, like that. So, pew pew. Pew, 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 pew. You know? So, there you go. You got the pew pews. And the Roger Rogers. So there you go. And then you can extend these. That one does go a little bit taller than that one. That one's supposed to stay at that point. So, but I think he's a solid looking figure. He's a good army builder. He's not perfect. He's got his flaws in the feet being a little bit too short. I understand that's by his design, but as far as the action figure kind of holding his own and staying where you need him to stay. He's kind of a delicate flower as far as that's concerned, getting him to kind of stand. I do have one with kind of like a loose knee, and it's kind of a pain in the rear end to get him to stand, but still not the end of the world. You can always use a little bit of floor polish and go that method if you want to. But he's a nice figure. I like the little eyes that he's got there. This little black lined eyes. There's a little bit of a QC issue with this guy. He kind of has like a solid black eye where he's supposed to have like a little bit of a slit right there. But the weapon that he does come with, his blaster, it does have a little bit of silver paint, dry brush detail going throughout it, speckled here and there throughout the gun. So it does look good. It does sit in his hands nicely. And if you want to have him being very accurate, you can have him look down the sights if you need to. It'll be the most accurate battle droid of all time. Let's get this elbow bent up, posed like so, and there you go. I have his head tilt in a little more, like so. So there you go. Actually, you could probably bend this a little more. Get this hinge to work. Come on, work hinge. There we go, that's much better. So, pew pew. Looks good. Looks good. So, I don't know, I like him, I dig him. He's not perfect. He's not a perfect figure by any means, but he'll get the job done as far as army building and such. And, can't wait for those repaints to come out. Because this is a case where I don't mind, whenever it's troopers, I don't mind repaints. Where maybe some people do. They're just, oh, it's just another repaint. Yeah, but it would work. It works for battle droids, seeing as there's different types of battle droids. Now, I'm really hoping for the destroyer droids, the droidicas, to come out. I cannot wait for those. So, as far as how he stacks up, let me set him back over here. Let me get him all straightened out. And we'll set him over here. Actually, we'll move him in a little bit closer so we have good lighting here. Or decent lighting. Decent lighting. I probably should have brought up more Black Series figures, but we got Darth Maul over here. So we'll just bring in Darth Maul. And straighten him out. Because you know those Darth Maul feet, they're kind of a little bit, we can actually bring him in closer. There we go. Darth Maul's a little bit on the shorter side, as he's supposed to be by his, he is essentially, it's Ray Park, so Ray Park's not the tallest guy in the world. But there you go, you've got a little size comparison. I think he's a perfect size. I think he looks the part. As far as scale-wise goes. So there you go with your scale. If you're curious with other action figures, here he is with a Predator. And obviously the Predator's way much larger. He's around the 7-inch mark. So, and Black Series figures usually are around the 5.5 to 6-inch mark, depending on the character. Here is, let's just bring in Ironhide here. Ironhide's a little bit on the taller side for the Siege line for a deluxe figure, but there you go. And then we've got, what do we have? Who's coming next? Huh? Do you know? Sir Gideon Evans brand. So there you go with a Mythic Legion. I know you guys were salivating for Sir Gideon Heaven's brand. But, so there's your comparisons. I mean, you pretty much get the drift as far as he goes. He's a good size. And very pleased with the figure overall. So I'll give him a 2 thumbs up. He does, like I said, he does have some... Or actually, I'll give him 2 Roger Rogers there. 2 Roger thumbs up. he does have some quality control issues. They're not as consistent. I think this guy's ankle is completely frozen on this side. So there's that. There's this guy's got a loose knee right here. So there's that. There's a couple little issues with him. I'm using the one that's in the best shape right here for the review. So there is that, but I wanted to point out the issues because I want you guys to, know this stuff. And if you want me to show you how to take his backpack off, you simply just pull the back, and it's not hard. You see two little pegs right there, and then you just kaploop, pop them right back in. Get his neck out of the way. Get out of the way, neck. Silly neck. And then it just clips right back in. No big deal there. So overall, nice figure. Don't have any issues with him. Well, I do have issues with him, but overall, as far as the figure makes me happy. I enjoy it. It's nice to army build, and I can't wait for repaints. So that's going to end the review segment. I will get him out of here, and then I'm going to bring in some episode 1 memorabilia, so we can start discussing episode 1. So we'll bring in that, and we'll bring in that, and then I'm going to have a nice little. Let me readjust my camera here. Bring in that and that, push that back, and then we'll push Obi-Wan back. There we go. There we go. That's better. And we'll move him over. And then we'll bring in, why not, why not? Because it makes sense. Right? Bring in the vintage guys here. The vintage counterparts for them. Readjust that. And adjust this. Make sure everybody's in frame here. Cool. Cool stuff. So now, this will be the portion of the video where we can kind of chat, discuss Star Wars Episode 1. I did do a watch-along with Episode 1. I'm kind of going throughout the entire saga. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. I'm sure the majority of people probably watching this live watched it with me while I was doing that. So Andy said that he hasn't found any in stores yet. I've only seen 2 in stores. So one at a Target, and then one at I think it was a GameStop had them. But I wasn't willing to pay the $23 for, the upgraded price for $23. The rest I got all on Amazon. Amazon had them up for $19.99 with free shipping, Amazon Prime shipping. So the rest I just got off Amazon. I only bought the one from Target. And so that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions or anything like that, hopefully they do not become Susie 4-inch bad doll dress. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions, comments, concerns, what did you guys think about the Phantom Menace? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you indifferent about it? But for those of you watching live or watching this on replay, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Phantom Menace. I will say this: I enjoy all the prequels. I want to say my least favorite, if I have to pick one out of the prequels, is probably Attack of the Clones, even though I am a big fan of Jango Fett. I think Attack of the Clones is kind of the weakest of the 3, and maybe of the 6. Not counting the sequels, trilogy stuff. But, I think the bright spots for the Phantom Menace are... And some of you are going to be scratching your head on this one. You're going to be like, what? Why? But I'll explain why. Some of obviously not as a teenager when I went to go see it. I was like, okay, this is kind of dull and boring. But now as an adult, with how it helped with world building, I didn't actually mind too much with the political stuff. Obviously it was mirroring what was going on politically at the time in 1999 with a lot of stuff, but it did have those political messages, but it did help with world building. And as much as maybe some scenes, certain scenes discussing trade negotiations weren't the most dynamic scenes, it did help tell a much larger story for the Star Wars universe. And I think it did help. It also gave Padme, or Queen Amidala, some more screen time, and really did help progress her character as well, and kind of give you a more in-depth look. And I feel like, George Lucas put a lot of time and effort into 4, 5, and 6, but I feel like episode 1 was like him having fun, where the original trilogy was a story that he wanted to get out, that he wrote and he was passionate about. But this is where I feel like he was having fun and trying to, because essentially Star Wars is garnished, or is driven towards children. It's a fantasy for children, and this just kind of amped it up a little bit more, where maybe a lot of the adults weren't expecting it, and then when they went to go see the movie, they kind of were like, this is the worst movie of all time. I don't think it's the worst movie of all time. I think some people went in with a lot of unfair expectations, but I do respect George Lucas for giving us something different each time. Obviously episode 1 is different from episode 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and they're all different from each other, and that's cool. Sure, there's a lot of mirroring between the prequels and the original trilogy, but and that's what's continued on now, and it's kind of, it's almost like cut and paste now with the sequel trilogies. But the mirroring that did work, it was helpful towards the story. So there is that. You've got your big bad in Darth Maul that's got this cool, unique look, just like Darth Vader did, and you had a great dueling scene. Probably the best, to me, it's the best duel scene in the entire saga, and I'm counting all of the movies. I was obviously 9's not out at the time of this video, but out of all of them, I think episode 1 has the best. Then I would say episode 3. Then probably, it's kind of a toss-up between episode 5 and 6. I still like 6's duel better between Luke and Vader, but anyway, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent talking about the original trilogy stuff, because that's not what this is about. This is about the Phantom Menace. So obviously the duel scene was fantastic. Duel of the Fates is probably my favorite Star Wars theme song out of it, and it's just a lot of fun to just watch that or recreate that with action figures, and it's just a lot of fun. And really realizing when I was a kid going to Toys R Us at Midnight Madness, that's when this all started essentially, and going to get those figures and trying to get a Darth Maul. And I remember there was only one Maul, and it was this one right here. This isn't the original one that I have, but I do have a tackle box full of those figures, which we can probably go through in a future video. But I remember this was the one that everyone was leaving on the shelf for some reason, but there was only I think 2 of these left back then, because everyone was grabbing the Mauls. They were all grabbing the Mauls, but they were all grabbing the dual version, so you could see his full getup and how he looked. But so there's just a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories. While I do have a lot of nostalgia and memories for the original trilogy, I was at an age, mid to late teens, where I, could have a better appreciation for it, as far as not having rose-colored glasses that much. But obviously, episode 1 had its flaws. Some of the dialogue wasn't top notch. Some of the way it was written wasn't necessarily top notch. But that was, I think, a product of not enough checks and balances with George Lucas writing and directing. And I don't feel like a lot of people wanted to, tell George no, because it's George's vision and it's George's show. So I feel like maybe because people wanted to keep their job, they didn't want to challenge George. So we didn't necessarily get the best written script or the best dialogue, but there's a lot of bright points. And while we could sit here forever and just nitpick about all the negative, which is easy to do, let's point out some positive things about episode 1. The character designs are fantastic across the board, and yes, even Jar Jar Binks. It's nice to see, even though, regardless of how much people hate that character, which I think we're actually getting a Black Series figure of, that's the rumor mill. His design was unique, never done before, and it was actually done by Ahmed Best, and it was a difficult role for him. It wasn't necessarily easy, working as a live action, essentially a digital character, a live action digital character, and it was innovative. That's the other cool thing about episode 1 was it was very innovative. It was shot I think half digitally, and then they went full digital, which kind of changed the landscape of a lot of things. Like when you see all the Marvel movies now and everything that Star Wars, even the Star Wars movies, the new ones, a lot of movies that use digital CGI and stuff like that on the regular. I mean, it all kind of stemmed from George Lucas starting to do that. Even with Jurassic Park, it was all through George Lucas's company, ILM, and so he really paved the wave for a lot. So episode 1 is kind of a historical landmark for film, the film industry as well. So what else? Obviously the Duel of Fates with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. Between seeing a young Obi-Wan, it was so nice to see, and I really feel like Ewan McGregor really embraced the role, and you can see it in a lot of the documentaries that Ewan McGregor really wanted to do justice to Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he would take little things that he would do, and kind of like the hello there. Obviously, that's where it came from, was from Alec Guinness. Hello there, my little friend. But he incorporated that into his young Obi-Wan, and it was nice to see that consistency with him. And I think he might be the brightest star as far as the whole as a whole for the sequel or the prequels. Excuse me, Gaz. How's it going, buddy? Another bright spots are like I said, the worlds just felt much larger in the prequels. It was a chance to use technology and at its best, while still at its nucleus stage as far as going full digital. Obviously when you look at it now, it's aged a little bit, but I still think it holds up overall. The ship designs were awesome. I loved all the Nubian style ships, those kind of like all chromed out ships. They looked just so beautiful and elegant, and that was so cool about the planet of Naboo, which is actually one of my favorite planets. That and Coruscant are my two favorite planets, kind of a yin and yang between each other. One's beautiful and gorgeous, the other one's like a metropolitan, just big city world. It's kind of like, reminds me of something out of like Judge Dredd or something. But that was really cool, seeing all these extra or new worlds that we weren't previewed to in the original trilogy. And obviously they had Tatooine there, but that's kind of like I feel like that's like a staple of the Star Wars brand. It's like, if you don't have Tatooine on your in your movie, it's like, what are you doing? Even Jakku looks a lot like Tatooine. Let's be honest here. But that was another bright spot, was the planets, the designs, being able to see the planets in a full scale in digital form really did help. So I'm very appreciative of that. And they still had a lot of, puppets they were using, because they didn't go full digital yet. That wasn't until episode 2. It was nice to see Yoda as a puppet while he's sitting. Obviously when he's dueling, I don't want to see a puppet dueling, because that would just I don't think that would look very good. But I thought overall, with its flaws, I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as a teenager, which I was kind of outside the demographic for that movie. I think it was like ages up to 12. Really, they were kind of hitting that pre-teen adolescence. But I still enjoyed it, and I have since then. And I know a lot of people love to hate on it because it's easy to hate things, but it's hard to hate something but be able to point out the positives that it does have. And I feel like it's so easy to be negative, but hard to be positive these days. A lot of people just like to point out all the negative because it's simple to do. But regardless of that, there's obviously we got the all new world building for the Jedi, and seeing the Jedi kind of at their peak at the time, and being able to enjoy the new lore that we got with Force Dash, and seeing the Jedi, how they wielded their lightsabers completely different from the original trilogy. The way the lightsabers even sounded from the original trilogy were completely different, and even how they sound now, they're different. So it's like, to me, I think the with that lightsaber duel and how you could hear the lightsabers clash against each other, and then my favorite aspect of the prequels in general, but especially Episode 1, because it was the first one where you saw it, was actual martial arts being used. And I'm not saying that there weren't some martial arts in the original trilogy, but it was much more so prevalent for Episode 1 and the prequels. You started getting more and more lore after this movie. I mean, they started coming out with books right after this explaining all the different Jedi code, and obviously a lot of people don't like the Metachlorian thing, but it was a science way to kind of dumb things down, I guess, for a little bit of a. Some people don't like it, but other people do. I'm kind of indifferent when it comes to the Metachlorian thing. It's not the big deal, but it does kind of give you a gauge on how powerful someone is when they explain that Anakin is like double, I think, the Metachlorian current of Yoda and something like that. But it was cool to see different new aspects, different new lore come out of it, and seeing the different fighting styles that the Jedi use and the Sith use, and seeing a more acrobatic and more martial arts type fighting style. It really did up the ante as far as I was concerned, because at that time you had Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, you had The Matrix coming out, so everything was really changing as far as those dynamic, epic fighting scenes, and you always want Star Wars to feel epic. It's got to feel big, and I think that's a lot of what's lacking in the sequel trilogy. It's just not the same. I feel like they need to go back to doing martial arts instead of trying to chop trees down with their swords, but or their lightsabers. Excuse me. I know someone's gonna be like, "You said sword," but what else did I love about Episode 1? And you guys can feel free to chime in, or anything that you liked about Episode 1 that you'd like to point out as well. But I'm just kind of rattling off different things. You got to see the whole planet of Naboo. You got to see the underwater kind of chase through the planet core thing was pretty cool. And I think it does hold up. I think it's actually some of the better CGI throughout the movie. To be honest with you, I think the worst CGI is probably the battle between the droids with Jar Jar Binks and all that. I don't know what it is, but something about the grass. It just doesn't come off. It comes off looking a little weird. I don't know what that and the tanks look a little bit off. But I mean, it was so cool to see how many battle droids would come out of that battle droid container ship or transport, whatever you want to call it, and how they kind of folded up, and they would just oh my god, it was so many of them. It was like you could just drop an army anywhere. So it was pretty intimidating. The Gungan army, that's what I meant to say. But it was cool to see the Gungan world. Obviously the dialogue with the Gungans didn't really mesh well with me, but overall pretty pleased with the movie. I came out of the movie theater very happy, and I don't think really too much changed. I did always. I think my opinion definitely changed on um, I forgot the guy's name that played young Anakin, but I think over the years, like when I came out of the theater back in '99, I was like, oh, he was fine. And some of my friends were like, he was horrible. And then I was like thinking about it more and seeing the movie a couple more times. And then now, 20 years later, it's like, yeah, I think he's the low point of the movie as far as the acting quality goes. It's just his delivery sometimes, and like what was it? I think my the one scene I can't stand the most of him is when he's having a discussion with Padme, and I feel like he even brings kind of down the quality of um, Natalie Portman's delivery too, because he's kind of a little bit delayed, and then he doesn't give the emphasis that he needs when he's saying things at certain points. But one specific one is when he's just talking to Qui Gon, and Qui Gon's like, "I'm not here to free slaves," and then he says it in such a weird way. I think you have. It's just like that's. I don't know. Just little things like that. Just nitpick things that bugged me about his delivery and. But anyway, I mean, it is what it is. It's 20 years old now, and I just kind of wanted to discuss it a little bit. If you guys have anything to say, any comments, concerns, or anything you'd like to add, you can add it now if you want to. Or if there's anything about the droids from the live review that you'd like to see, please don't hesitate to ask. If you want me to show you something that maybe I missed, or if you thought I missed something. But just my camera a little bit more. Sorry. I don't know if this lighting is washing out the figures. Try and adjust it a little. Maybe it's actually a little bit better. But yeah, I thought it was nice to kind of discuss it. It's fitting. It's the 20th anniversary, and it's not nearly as bad as a movie as I think people want to say it is. But here's some of the other figures that came in the waves. Pretty cool. This is, I think, the re-release. Oh no, Hasbro had the license by then. I'm sorry. I apologize. I got screwed up there. But pretty cool. Nice little. Even gave you a little action figure checklist. I don't know what it is. I know it doesn't. A lot of people don't care about packaging, and I get that. But for me, whenever I'd get an action figure, I always liked little things with it. Obviously, they've got the gimmick with the Comtech reader right here, and these. Oh my God! If you had this Comtech reader like I did, when you would put one of these on there, it would sound horrible. It sounded just utter garbage. Sometimes it would sound like, like that. Or it would be really crackled. But I always liked using them just as a display base so you could set them up. But pretty cool. And the other cool thing about these figures, while they were lacking in the articulation department and the range of motion, stuff like that, they looked the part. They still look the part, I think. They look good. And you're kind of seeing a little bit of a resurgence with this line. I think a lot of the people that went to go see this movie and enjoyed it from a kid's standpoint or even a teenager standpoint like myself, they're starting to have a better appreciation for the prequels now, where a lot of the original trilogy people in their 40s, 50s, stuff like that, or even in their 30s, while they do love their OT, I feel like a lot of those collectors are starting to get a little bit older, so you're getting a new crowd of people that do have the appreciation. So it's nice to see that resurgence, because it's nice to see, while I don't really care for the sequel trilogy, I can still see there's a lot of bright points in it. I can see beauty in the beast, but there's as much as there is to criticize the prequels, there is to point out positive as well. The hunt for Darth Maul was brutal. Oh my god, I know. Andy, man, it was so. It was rough. Like I said, I think there was only like 2 of this version, the Tatooine cloaked Darth Maul. There's only like 2 of those on the shelf at my Toys R Us when I went with my father, and I was lucky to get that one. I mean, you had people, grown men with like 16 Darth Mauls in their hand, just getting checked out, and there's a lot of people getting upset about it. I remember there was like one guy yelling at another guy, "Why do you have all of those? That's not fair to everybody else here. My kid wants a Darth Maul or an Obi-Wan Kenobi or whatever." But, you know, that was not much has changed, I guess. Scalpers are a little bit more secretive about taking the whole waves, or you know, back then they were a little bit more blatant. But I'm actually hoping that we get and maybe like I know we're getting the re-release of Darth Maul in the bring him in a little bit closer. I know we're getting a re-release of this guy from the Orange Card series, but in the archive line. But it would be nice to get another version of Darth Maul, maybe with maybe we can get like a deluxe figure with the big spider legs, and then you can detach him from the spider legs, kind of similar to the mashups figure line. It would be cool to see that, where you could take his torso off, and then he comes with robot legs too. You could put his torso on the robot legs or on the spider legs, and then have him come with his single lightsaber. That would be pretty cool. It'd be a nice little deluxe figure to pick up. Or if they ever release a Black Series Bloodfin speeder with him, with his little ball droids, you know, the ball droids. Darth Maul and his balls. But it'd be cool to see that down the road. I wouldn't mind even the design where he's in the end of Solo. I think that design looks pretty cool too. But Savage Opress would be another cool figure to come out. I know he's Clone Wars, but you know, as far as Episode 1 figures, I mean, I guess you could go with who else? I mean, who else do we really need from Episode 1? Well, we definitely need a young Anakin. Young Anakin. Definitely a Queen Amidala. Who else? I think we're getting Jar Jar Binks, which I didn't think they were going to do that, but I would definitely pick one up, you know. What else? Who else do we get? Who else should we get? I don't know, but it'd be cool to get some more prequels, Black Series figures down the road. We're finally getting Count Dooku, which I don't know why the hell that took as long as it did. But, you know, at least we're getting them. I'm pretty happy about that. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to discuss Episode 1 with you guys, kind of hang out with you guys and gals. Obviously, let's get the battle droids back in here, seeing as it's their live review. We're just kind of, which actually this is quite fitting, having these battle droids. Sorry, I'm situating one. He dropped his blaster here, so we got to get him all situated. There we go. There's that. And then we'll get another one in here. Oh, there he goes. See? That's okay. There we go. Oh, there he goes again. It's the feet. I'm telling you, it's the feet. Feet don't like to stay. Feet don't fail me now. My feet don't fail me now. There we go. Stay. Stay. My dog's looking at me funny. He's like, What do you mean, Dad? I'm already staying. There we go. A little wobbly. Little wobbly. And then we'll put this guy in the back. A little bit of a bent antenna that I got. I just got this guy today in the mail, so he's got a little bit of a bent antenna. And he's kind of got some ankle issues. This is the other one that had a weak ankle. It's like one's frozen, one was loose. Kind of. Don't fall, please. There we go. But there you go. There's your live review of the Star Wars Black Series Battle Droid, which is figure number 83 in the series. And you had your little discussion of Episode 1, kind of celebrating Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, 20 years old. Holy Toledo. I feel even older. Oh, boy. But, oh yeah, definitely Senator Palpatine. I would love a figure of that. Give me the entire Jedi Council. Absolutely. Totally agree, A&D. No one ever get all the characters that the name into for 3 years. I think you're trying to say we're not going to get the characters that I have named into for at least 3 years. Action figure expert. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody thought we were going to get a battle droid recently, but you know, they gave us a ton of clones with no one to fight for so long. I wouldn't have minded getting a clone droid 2-pack. Maybe give them different paint apps and whatnot. I know we got the Amazon 4-pack with the clones, but it'd be cool to see like a 4-pack with the droids so you can army build a little bit better. I really want Droidicas though. I need those destroyer droids and the super battle droids. But yeah, you know, here's maybe they don't make them, but here's me crossing my fingers. Not going to give up hope. You know. But that's going to do it for this. I don't want to go past an hour. That would be just too long. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the hangout. Thanks for popping by. Thanks for hanging out with me. And thanks for contributing. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Action Figure Expert. Thank you to Orc at War 98. Thank you to A-Indy, as always, bro. Zorpox, thank you, buddy. And thank you, Action Figure Expert. And Gaz. Thanks for popping by, Gaz. Nice to see you again, buddy. So that's pretty much it for me. Let me know what you guys think of Episode 1 in the comments below, and I will